Guys, I didn't think Black Rabbit was that good, and I think Task on HBO could have been written better, honestly. Same with Welcome to Derry, and a bunch of other shows that came out recently, but we'll get to those. I'm not saying any of these shows are bad by any means. They're all well-made, popular shows. It's just that I don't think they're written as well as they necessarily look. You know what they all have in common, though? A really good first couple of episodes. Great, even. Maybe it's just me and getting older, but I know I'm not alone in feeling generally apathetic towards most series coming out recently. There are some I enjoy and tune in to watch every week, but most of the time, I just don't really care, you know? Like, genuinely, about what happens to the characters, and I want to know why that is. Is it me? Am I losing my interest and sense of childlike wonder with age, trading the joy that once came so easily for anger at the very things that no longer captivate me the same way? Anyway, Black Rabbit. The first 2 episodes of the show, they're good. Good enough to make me think this was going to be another hit for Bateman, another Ozark. In the year 2025, for any big budget show under a streaming umbrella, you're pretty much guaranteed 2 things: great acting and production. The set design, costumes, locations, the special effects, for the most part. Everything that has to do with making something that isn't the actual story or script itself. Black Rabbit is no different. The first episode alone is overstimulating as it is, and has enough fancy camera shots and snappy cuts of clubbing to make you think you're watching something more substantial. And then, well, full spoilers for everything I talk about in this video, by the way, not just this show. Jude Law plays Jake, owner of a bar/nightclub hangout called the Black Rabbit, where he spends the majority of his time, and also has an ex-wife named Val. Jake's best friend Wes is co-owner of the Black Rabbit, and apparently has a successful music career that we never see any of, and is dating Estelle, whom Wes acts very controlling over. Estelle and Jake also have a thing for each other, unknown to Wes. Jake's addict brother and former co-owner of the Black Rabbit, Vince, Jason Bateman, stumbles back into his life and is immediately shaken down by the local mob for the debt he still owes them. After Jake gets involved with the boss himself to try and help Vince throughout the whole show, Vince eventually agrees to rob Jake with one of the loan sharks, who shoots Wes, killing him, and one of the loan sharks dies too. Did you get all that?
Are you kidding me?
Good, because that's the first episode. It's just another example of an exciting setup with an unfulfilling ending. The show starts with this robbery, and most of the episodes after act as a prologue to it. The glaring issue is, the more you think about it, the less sense it makes. It's like trying to turn the Titanic around. By the time you're on set with a rented space, actors in costume, camera crew, and everybody else running around, there's not really enough time to look down at the script and be like, wait, but this doesn't really make sense. Why would my character... Action! The majority of the show is spent with Jake and Vince as they navigate the city under the watch of these 2 goons, desperately trying to pay back Vince's debt. Jake going as far as to offer up his own establishment if it's not paid, because fuck all of his employees and friends, right? And okay, the way this mob's presence is portrayed throughout the show is mostly through these 2 loan shark goons introduced early on, and I'm sorry, they're just not threatening. It's like Vince is being hounded by a 6th-year college frat guy and a Jared Leto impersonator. These 2 guys just aren't scary.
He's not holding me back anymore. Huh?
And when Babbitt tries to sound threatening, he sounds like me quietly ordering takeout for the 2nd time in the other room.
You're getting in the car whether you want to or not, you understand?
Hi, yeah, can I order 2 cheeseburgers, please?
Now look, Vince and Jake aren't natural killers. I get that. Get held up at gunpoint once? Scary, sure. They'll work to pay back their debt. Then they get held up at gunpoint again. And again. And then the goons threaten Vince's daughter and Jake's ex-wife. Back to gunpoint. By the 5th episode, I'm just like, will one of you buy a fucking gun? This is New York after all. It's easier to find a gun than a trash can. All of the supporting characters in this show feel like nothing more than plot devices used to move the brothers' story forward in some way. And back to the inciting incident, the robbery at the beginning. That makes less sense now, because Jake was being a bad friend, sleeping with his best friend's girl behind his back. And what does Wes do after finding out? He takes a bullet and dies for him. In like the weirdest way, too. He just keeps talking as one of the loan sharks has a gun pointed at him. Like he's really worried about Jake's watch at this point. For some reason, he just keeps walking towards Jake's watch. Like, why would that be more important than his own life? What has Jake done to even earn this sort of level of sacrifice? You know what I mean? It it starts to fall apart. I'm not even sure why he's well liked, because the majority of what we've seen him do is lie to everyone around him, fuck over his friends, steal money from his own business and employees, and help his addict brother in committing crimes just to pay back his debt. I had a real moment towards the end of the show and asked myself, do I genuinely care about any of these characters? It's one thing to have an audience root for an anti-hero, but when it's pretty much the entire cast, I'm not rooting for any of them. I was close to tears when Jason Bateman, Vince, threw himself off the building in front of Jake while telling him to have a good life. And not from sadness. I mean, seriously, in this well-acted, well-shot, expensive show, the best ending they could come up with is that one of the main characters throws himself off a building in front of his brother while encouraging him to go on. Like, that wouldn't fuck up anyone? It just stands out to me so much these days in these new shows. Generally above average acting with below average writing. And you can tell. I know I've skipped over the finer details of the story. Don't worry, the show does too. It's not worth getting into more specifics. Vince and his daughter's relationship, Jake with his ex-wife and son, the assortment of the rest of the side characters whose story arcs do little else than to move the plot forward. But this problem of great acting with mediocre writing isn't unique to this show at all. It's unfortunately how I feel about a lot of recent shows. Mark, it's your turn. Task. The most 10 out of 10 acting I've seen in the most 7 out of 10 show. And just like Black Rabbit, the first 2 episodes, amazing. By the end, I just had trouble caring. It follows 4 task agents led by Tom, Mark Ruffalo, searching for Robbie, Tom Pelfrey, while he and his friend rob trap houses under the guise of garbage men. It's clear that they're on a collision course from the very start, and both characters have very dramatic family drama for different reasons.
I'm sorry. I was smoking. Back off. I was smoking. It's my bad. Hey, back off or I'll drop your fucking hat!
Of the series I've mentioned, Task by far has the best character writing. There are scenes between characters I specifically remember because of how realistic and well delivered some of the lines were. But I feel the lack of trust in the audience in the overarching plot. Because honestly, you can guess exactly how the show will end from the very first episode. Like most newer shows, towards the middle is where it really starts to show its flaws and drags from there. In episode 4, when the local gang, the Dark Hearts, have been introduced into the mix, Tom gets a tip and tells his boss, Kathleen, that there's an informant on the task force. When he leaves the room, she makes a phone call telling someone they might have a problem. I was looking forward to seeing the fallout from his boss being the informant and working for the gang the whole time. But that never happens. Turns out it was another one of the task agents that was the informant. And the whole storyline with his boss goes nowhere and doesn't come back. After finishing the series, I can't help but look back and think how unnecessary that was. Why was there such a big hint of Tom's boss being in on it the whole time, just for it not to be relevant to the plot? It's not an effective red herring, more of a distracting plot thread that doesn't really lead anywhere. Still, the acting is genuinely great in this show. I don't think there's a better person to play a down on their luck, deeply sad man than Mark Ruffalo right now. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but he's good enough to make you feel something with just a brief facial expression. Along with Tom Pelfrey, who's quickly becoming one of my favorite new actors. I immediately recognized him from Ozark, where he stood out to me. He brings such a quiet intensity to his characters. You can feel so much going on every time he's on screen. Probably my favorite part of the whole show.
And you get to walk into those woods, Tom.
The whole tone of the show is too drab and inconsistent. It's clearly going for a realistic, gritty feel. They show detailed examples of torture. So when a main character and member of the task force, Elizabeth, gets hit head on by a fucking pickup truck and goes flying but looks like this after, it just kind of takes me out of it. If I ever get fucking slammed by a Ford going easily 40 plus myself, I hope I look this good after. Even though you can predict the ending, it's not a happy one. Robbie and his friend Cliff die, because of course they do, with the FBI and local gangs both after them. The money ends up with Robbie's niece and his brother's kids, which admittedly is a somewhat nice touch. And Tom tells his adopted son, who's been in prison for the murder of his wife this whole time, that he's welcomed back home whenever he's released. It's bleak and it's boring, with any spark from the first 2 episodes being lost long ago. There's nothing here you haven't seen before, from prolonged dull shootout sequences or conflicting writing concerning the overarching plot and weak side characters. But again, there's no glaring issue with this show. There's certainly not a weak link when it comes to who's on screen, yet I'd be surprised if anyone remembers it more than 6 months from now. That's always a good test, by the way. Can you remember any of the characters' names from something you watched recently? Unfortunately, Task ends up feeling like another safe, by-the-numbers cop drama, ultimately making it somewhat forgettable. Besides Tom Pelfrey, that guy deserves all the roles.
Take me back to old Yazoo. Everything up here is
have to say up front that this is one of my personal favorites. Horror is my favorite genre, and come on, any scene with Pennywise is usually pretty banging. I love the way this show opens. A hitchhiking kid gets picked up by a seemingly nice family. He sits in the back with the other children as the father reassures him. It lets us sit in this scene. It gives you time to think about what's happening. I don't care if it's the 60s, isn't it kidnapping for a family to pick up a random child and just drive off with him? The kids in the back seat start to spell out words. I think I'm probably part of the last generation that did something like this. The youngest kid spells out bungalow.
Bungalow.
Then the word symphony, while his older sister calmly removes a pack of raw liver from her backpack and starts eating it, while smearing some on the hitchhiking kid's face. Then they start to spell out the words vasectomy and kidnapping. And then a CG monster baby thing bursts out of the mom's stomach, flying around the car before jump scaring the camera. I wish the show as a whole had more of the first type of vibe rather than the second, because there's a lot of CG. Not that CG is a negative in itself, I just don't know how else to describe a giant flying bloody monster spewing liquid as anything other than CG.
They made a giant fucking mutant baby!
Subtle is what I'm trying to say. The difference between the first It movie and the second. Welcome to Derryland, somewhere in the middle. Every series I've mentioned so far has great acting, and this show is no different. Even more funny, I think the main cast of the kids are written and acted better than most of the adult characters. The fake-out pilot episode that included the death of multiple children at the hands of a CG baby monster did a great job at introducing the new Losers Club. But honestly, outside of some shining moments with Dick Halloran, the whole military B-plot of this show is so boring. There's only so many times I can see Dexter's dead dad give orders to some vague knowledge concerning it before it starts to get repetitive. I was always more invested in what was going on at the middle school.
Hey, how are you? Good. Why don't you have a seat right over there?
And the relationships and interpersonal drama, much more so than spending another 5 minutes in a military office talking about essentially nothing. And after finishing it, it feels like it would have worked better at 6 or 7 episodes, specifically because yet again the middle drags, and the bulk of that extra time is spent explaining things to the audience as directly as possible. Just in case anyone still has any questions about what this thing is, here's a 12-minute montage explaining exactly where the clown came from, what it is, and why it's here. This is probably less apparent if you were to stream the show now, but tuning in week to week, it was hard not to feel like in some episodes, nothing happened. None of this takes away from the last 2 episodes of the show, which are pretty wicked across the board, and kind of make the whole thing worth watching in my opinion. I just wish we could have gotten there a bit quicker, rather than the entire season feeling bookended by the best parts. There are too many characters, too much B-plot of a military base with a nothing burger payoff, and definitely too many CG monsters. I still enjoyed Welcome to Derry overall. I think most people would agree it turned out to be better than any of us imagined. I just can't help but not like it as much as I wanted to, because it's plagued with the same issues that Black Rabbit and Task were. The death of subtlety is affecting most movies and shows coming out now. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck recently said as much when discussing their new movie, The Rip, about how Netflix and other big streaming services will give specific notes to write their script expecting the audience to be on their phone, like you are now. Isn't that kind of depressingly fucked though? Gone are the days of clever stories with subtext-driven dialogue. It's all, this is what's happening, here's why I'm doing it, here's how I feel, and this is what is currently happening again, in case you forgot from 10 seconds ago.
That girl Desi told me that you told the major that the rip was only 150K.
Wait, the rip looks like it's about 150K.
Is that what she heard?
I also knew she'd tell you about the 150K. That's the number I gave you. 150K was you.
150K.
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 I mean, Stranger Things put its entire fan base in a temporary psychosis waiting for the true series finale to come out, all because the actual ending was incredibly underwhelming, disjointed, and didn't address major overarching plot threads, or really reward your investment the same way other shows do. Again, there are just too many characters, and CG, and way too much over-explaining. Pluribus came out recently, and is the perfect argument to everything I've been complaining about. Not everything is directly told or explained to you, it's the opposite. That's when a show gets you to pay attention, because you're just as desperate to find out what's going to happen as the characters are. No one is holding up a pencil sharpener to demonstrate how they're going to break into a military base for 3 minutes. But if you look online, people think that show's too slow and boring, so maybe there's no winning these days. It's because of all this I think it's been so long since I've genuinely cared about a character in a current show. The last time I remember getting emotionally invested and shocked was when I watched Mr. Robot last year, but even that show is 10 years old. It wasn't written with the expectation that the majority of the audience would be doom scrolling on TikTok, so the plot wasn't dumbed down, and the characters weren't saying how they were feeling constantly. It was subtle. I just don't want the majority of new shows and movies to be written assuming that I'm only half paying attention, to automatically think anyone streaming anything is distracted on their phone. I want shows that reward your investment with things you can miss if you're not paying close enough attention. Something that... Sorry, what was I saying again?